Then someone called her name in loud voice, and the next second, the door of her room got opened with a loud voice. She didn't react much, cause she knew who is he and why is he calling her. Taehyung entered the room and roamed his eyes around to find Vian, and here he found her sitting in the balcony while he is shouting his lungs out here. What are you doing here? Do you know from when I'm shouting your name? Are you deaf? He strides towards her while scolding her. She looked up when he stand in front of her, and she felt a shiver ran down in her spine. No matter how much she denied, she still feels scared when he glares at her with his cold eyes. After all, he is her cold, heartless professor, from whom every student is scared in college. So she is. What are you doing here? He asked, his voice stern. I was just here for some fresh air, she said while shuddering, while he nodded, brushing his hairs backwards frustratingly, and threw the mark sheet of recent test in front of her. What is this? He asked, anger evident in his voice. Vian gripped the paper tightly, not daring to look up into his eyes. Her silence only made him more mad. Why are you silent? I asked, what is this? He raised his voice a little, and she stiffened on her place and mumbled slowly. Mark sheet. He rolled his eyes in annoyance, rubbing his temples to calm his temper as this girl is making him lose his mind. For God's sake, I know this is a mark sheet. I'm talking about your marks. You just passed because of 1 mark. Or else you were failed for sure. I told you to focus on studies, right? She wanted to scream at him that this is what you are only saying to me from the starting of our marriage, that focus on your studies, that he is more like her all-time home tutor rather than her husband. But she swallowed her complaints as always because she isn't left with any courage in her to speak for herself. Are you listening to me? She snapped back at him when he again shouted at her, and he sighed, looking at her, who is staring at the floor blankly. I want improvement in next test, Vian. If you have any problem, then ask me. Focus on your studies. It's for your own good. She nodded while looking down. He sighed and walked away, and she sighed, thinking his scolding session for today is done. But then she again heard him shouting from the room. Come downstairs in 10 minutes. Dinner is ready. She again looked at the sky as tears started streaming down from her cheeks, which she was holding from so long, as she remembered the painful memories of her life again. Vian opened her eyes and found herself alone in the room. She was still in her wedding dress. She looked around and realized that she slept while waiting for her husband. He didn't come in the room, she said while biting her lower lip. She walked outside of the room after taking a shower. She walked in the corridor to explore the house, but she saw something which broke her heart. She saw Taehyung sleeping soundly in a room. He is sleeping here peacefully while she was waiting for him almost whole night. He didn't even tell her that they will be staying in different rooms. Don't worry, Ryan. Maybe he was tired or he wants some time to adjust with me. She said to assure her restless heart that it is not like which she is thinking. At least here, she'll get a little bit of consideration, value, and love. She was cooking breakfast in the kitchen when she heard his footsteps. He walked inside the kitchen, but his steps halted, seeing Ryan cooking breakfast. "Good morning," she said with a small smile, while he took a deep breath before saying, "Ryan, you don't have to do these things or anything. Just focus on your studies, okay?" He said, frustration laced in his tone, and then walked out of the kitchen. And that's how, little by little, she got to know it is not any different from her parents' house. There, she had to follow her parents' order, and here, his. She had so many expectations from this marriage that finally there will be someone who will care for her and will love her a bit, but her hopes broke down mercilessly. It's been 4 months. He never asked her if she is feeling good, never asked her how is she, and day by day she is losing hope. Ryan was going towards her classroom as it was time for her classes to get started. But someone pushed her from behind, causing her to fall on the ground hardly. She looked up and saw Yuna laughing. "Oh, sorry, I didn't see you." Saying that, she walked away. This is her another reason of depression. In college, her own sister bullied her, and because of that, others also bully her. "I'm such a loser. I couldn't even stand up from myself," she mumbled to herself and slowly got up from the ground before walking towards her class without caring about the injury she got on her ankle. "May I come in, sir?" she asked hesitantly as taehyung already started teaching. He looked at her coldly. Whole class fell silent. "May I know the reason of your daily late arrival in the class?" he asked, and she lowered her head without saying anything, but looked up when he shouted, "Out of the class, right now." Whole class was looking at her. Some were silently laughing and whispering among themselves. Most of them were her bullies. Her sister was her first bully. And because she was popular, most students started bullying her as she never says anything. "Sorry, sir." She turned around and slowly began walking out while limping, and he saw it. He sighed, looking at her wound. As always, Ryan is late, and I don't understand why she always comes late. When she always leaves the house early in the morning and always comes late in the class. And when I ask her the reason, she just stands there like a statue without saying anything, making me more mad. I shouted and told her to stand outside of the class. She turned around and started walking without saying anything. I noticed she was having difficulty in walking, and that's when I noticed the wound on her ankle. So that's why she is late. She got hurt. Then, can't she speak up? I don't know what is wrong with this girl. Stop. Meet me after the class. Now take the lecture quietly. Go and sit. With that, taehyung again started taking his lecture, glancing at her time to time. Ryan entered his cabin hesitantly after getting the permission. As she stepped in, taehyung looked at her. You here? He stood up and walked towards her and made her sit on the chair, and then started searching for something in drawer. Why you called me here? Listen, I'll try to come on time from tomorrow. Please. Taehyung just nodded. After taking out the first aid kit, he bent down and removed her sandal and then placed her feet on his thigh. Wyan gasped as she tried to take her leg back, but he held it tightly. Stay still, he said sternly, causing her to stop her all actions, and he started treating her ankle. Where were you before, and how this happened? Actually, I slept while walking in the corridor. She lied, cause she can't tell him that her own sister is bullying her, and she's letting her do that. What will he think about her? Walk carefully and take care of yourself, he said as he stood up after bandaging her wound. You can go now, he said, but she was still staring at him. He waved his hand in front of her and she snapped back into reality. What? You can go. She stood up and was about to go, but then she suddenly turned and asked him, Taehyung, do you care for me? She asked with so much innocence in her voice. She was looking like a 5-year-old who is asking her mother that if she loved her or not, while Taehyung just looked at her shocked as she suddenly asked him something like this. Tell me, Taehyung, do you care for me? She repeated, and this time Taehyung answered her without hesitation. Of course, I care for you, Wyan. Is this even a question? A smile appeared on her lips after hearing him, but it disappeared after hearing his next words. And you know what, Wyan? If I'll not take care of you properly, then yours and mine, both parents will kill me. So, he just cared because of his parents, or my parents will blame him if something happened to me. And for a second, I thought I got someone who really cares for me. No one will say anything to you, sir. At least not my parents. So don't show me your fake care from next time, she said in a cold voice and left after slamming the door harshly, leaving a confused Taehyung as he didn't even hear her properly what she said. Fake care? What exactly is going on in this girl's head? He said while shaking his head. According to him, Wyan is very complicated. The more he tried to understand her, the more he gets confused. Her parents told him to be strict with her until she completes her studies. They told him she doesn't concentrate on studies and waste her time on useless things. But until now, he didn't saw her doing anything useless. He doesn't even let her do any house chores. But still, her scores are not improving, and that is concerning him. Wyan and Taehyung both were having dinner silently until he spoke. Wyan, from next week, your semesters are starting, and I want you to at least gain half marks. I'm not telling you to come first, and if you have any problem, ask me, okay? He asked, looking at her, and she nodded. And Wyan, I'll not let it slide this time. If you failed this time, you have to bear consequences. So study hard. Wyan's hand stopped from which she was eating. Now it was getting hard for her to even gulp the food in her mouth after hearing his word. Consequences, the word she hates the most, as it reminds her of her past. Consequences. Will he also lock me in a dark room for not getting good marks? Or he will starve me straight for days, or something more worse. Ryan, eat your food. She slightly flinched upon hearing him and started eating slowly. Taehyung, who noticed her flinching, he don't know why she doesn't talk to him. Maybe because of his cold behavior. After 1 week, came Ryan. The teacher called her name, and she slowly walked to her with slow step. She was very nervous about her results this time, as other time Taehyung just used to scold her badly. But this time, Taehyung has strictly told her to improve, as he is really frustrated because of her. Here, she said and handed her the test paper with displeased expression, as most of the teachers also doesn't like her because of her poor academic status. Ryan, at least try to improve. By these grades, you can't do anything in your life. Don't waste your life like this. Ryan's heart dropped looking at her marks. She remembered Taehyung's word. Ryan, I'll not let it slide this time. If you failed this time, you have to bear consequences. So study hard. Tears filled in her eyes while looking at her mark sheet. She grabbed her bag and hastily walked out of her class and then college. Taehyung is walking back and forth in the living room, looking at the entrance continuously. It is almost night and Ryan is not home yet. Where is this girl? I don't even know her friends. He dialed her number again, but again. Why the hell she is not answering my calls? He sighed, getting worried for her, as it is the first time she is out till this late. He had called her parents also, but she is not there either. He walked inside her room in order to find her diary, where she writes her important one's number. From there, he could at least find her friend's number, but he doesn't know that she don't have any friends. He was looking for that diary and soon he found it, but it has only her mother's, father's and brother's or some relative's number. Aside from 2 pages, whole diary was empty. In frustration, he threw the diary on the floor, but then himself picked it up to place it on its right place. But while picking it up, he noticed many crumbled papers lying on the floor. Don't know what's got into him. He picked up one paper and uncrumbled it, but what he saw made his mind blank for some time. I want to die. I hate everyone. I hate myself. I hate this life. I hate everything. This was written on the paper. He immediately bent down and collected all the papers. There were almost 10 to 15. He picked them up and sat on the bed and started reading them one by one. I don't like my life. Everyone just dictate me what to do and what to not. Like I'm a doll and will work on only their orders. I hate it when someone orders me. Are marks everything? Without marks, you cannot live. Is marks more important than someone's life? People think I don't try. I try very hard, but I can't do it because I'm not made for studies. Maybe I can do something better, but no. If you don't want to study, then die. It's better than not studying. That's what my father tells me. How can a father tell this to his child? He shook his head in disbelief and opened the other paper. He told me, He told me if I'll not get good marks in semesters, then he'll not let it slide. I have to bear the consequences. I knew. He is also like mom and dad. I thought he is better than them, but no. He is showing his true colors, slowly. I know. He'll also lock me in the dark room and will starve me for straight days. Or he can do more than that. After all, he is my husband. No one will question him. My parents hate me, so they will be happy if something will happen to me. What the hell is stuffed inside her mind? Is that how her parents used to behave with her? His mind was completely blown up after reading her thoughts. He sighed and opened the last paper. I don't think I'll be able to score good in tomorrow's exam. I have studied day and night. My head is aching because of exhaustion. But I know I won't be able to get good marks. And Taehyung will again shout at me. My classmates will bully me and make fun of me. And even my parents and sister. I don't want to study. I want to die. I want to die. I'm a coward that I can't even kill myself. Please God, kill me. I can't bear this pain. No one loves me. I want to die. She is depressed. After seeing all this, he became worried, very worried. He immediately called his brother, who is a cop. Hello, Hugh. Can you please trace one number, its current location? Why? What happened? Whose number you want to trace? Viance, she is not home yet. I'll tell you everything later, but please, for now trace her number. Okay, don't take tension. I'm sending you the location in 5 minutes, okay? Here, Vian was crying while looking at her mark sheet. I'm useless. I'm of no use. I can't do anything. My parents doesn't love me because I'm useless. I never made them proud. That's why everyone hates me. God, why I'm so useless. She crumbled the mark sheet in her one hand and leaned onto the railing of the bridge. She was staring at the flowing water of the river while tears were continuously flowing from her eyes. But she flinched when she heard someone shouting her name. Vian. She turned around and saw Taehyung walking towards her. Don't know what came in her mind. She took some steps backward and then suddenly she started running away from him. Vian, where are you going? Stop. He also ran behind her. Why the hell she is running away from me? He was running behind her, but his eyes widened, seeing a car coming towards her in full speed. But Vian wasn't stopping. She was just running without looking here and there. Vian, watch out! He ran towards her to save her, but just then, the car was about to hit Vian. Taehyung pulled her towards him, causing both of them to fall on the ground. Taehyung was on the ground while she was on the top of him. He was holding her tightly. Are you okay? He asked, but Vian was in her own trance. She wasn't saying anything. He made her stand along with him, but Vian was still looking down. But then, anger filled in his vein. He looked at her furiously. What were you doing, huh? What were you trying to do? He shouted, making her flinch. He was thinking that she was here to end her life. He grabbed her shoulder before turning her towards him. Will you tell me? What are you doing here in the midnight? I was worried sick at home. Do you have any idea how much worried I was? He stopped when he heard her crying. Till now, she was crying silently. hearing him shouting at her. But now, her sobs started getting louder. Taehyung brushed his hair back in frustration. He had to be calm with her. Shouting and getting angry will only worsen the situation. Taking a deep breath, he looked at her. Why, before he could say further, she cut him off, saying, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Please forgive me, she said while crying. It's fine. Just don't do this from next time. If you want to go somewhere, then inform me, he said, his voice soft than his usual cool tone. But Vian shook her head, while more tears rolled down from her eyes. She forwarded the crumbled mark sheet, which was still in her hand, to him. I'm sorry. I'm such a disappointment. He narrowed his eyes, taking the mark sheet from her hands. She was just past 1 mark less, or she would be in the category of failed student. He looked at her, his anger again flaring up. He grabbed her arm and pulled her closer. She closed her eyes, seeing him raged, while continuously mumbling small sorry. Open your eyes. I said open your eyes, Vian, he said. His deep, stern voice forced her to follow his words. She opened her eyes, locking her eyes with his, her eyelashes wet with tears. His gaze softened after seeing her. He gently wiped the tears off from her face. What is this, Vian? He said, his eyes showing disappointment, while she again said sorry while lowering her head. What sorry, huh? What sorry? He left her shoulders with a jerk, while she became more scared seeing him this angry. But her eyes widened when he teared the mark sheet in front of her and threw it on the road. Just because of this, you were scared, and you were that much scared that you didn't come home and even tried to run away from me. Do you even know how I felt when the car was about to hit you if I wasn't there? He grabbed his head, his frustration reaching its peak level. He looked at Vian, who was looking at him as if she had seen some ghost. He slowly took a step closer to her and cupped her face. Wiping her tears, he said, Vaina, no need to get scared of me. These marks doesn't mean to me more than you. I won't kill you for getting low marks. And it's okay to get low marks. Not everyone can be a good student. Maybe you are made for something else. Studies are not everything. Studies are important, but you don't need to become a scientist. Just need to complete your basic studies. And I'll help you in that, okay? Vian was hearing him with a blank expression on her face. Her eyes filled with tears again. It's the first time someone told her that she is important more than anything to him. She suddenly hugged him, throwing her all weight on him. Taehyung stumbled a little but held her by grabbing her waist. It's the first time after their marriage they were this close, and Taehyung felt good feeling her this close to him. But then he felt something wet on his neck. Turned out she was crying again. He tried to separate her, but she held on to him more tightly, not letting him go. Vian, don't cry. But hearing this, she started crying more louder. Sobs after sobs, her cries filled in the silent road of that night. She was crying badly. Taehyung felt bad. The unknown feeling of not acknowledging her pain didn't settle well in his stomach. He was feeling restless, yet so useless. His wife was in front of him in so much pain, but he couldn't see her pain, and instead of comforting her, he added more into it. After some time, her sobs decreased, and she parted away from him. She gasped after seeing his shirt. His shirt was ruined because of her. I'm sorry, she said, her voice low because of crying too much. It's okay, don't worry about it. Here, wipe your face. He extended his handkerchief to her. While she was stunned, as it was first time he was behaving softly with her. She was lost looking at him, but flinched when he started wiping her face. "Yes, wipe your face," he said when she took the handkerchief from his hand hurriedly. "Let's go home." He held her hand and started walking towards his car. But only after 2 steps, Wyan stumbled. If wasn't Taehyung holding her, she would be on ground now. "Wyan, what happened?" he asked her as she clenched her hands on Taehyung's shirt, and in no time, she fell on Taehyung unconscious. Wyan, what happened?" Wyan opened her eyes slowly, her head throbbing with pain. She looked around and realized she is not in her room, but what shocked her that she is in Taehyung's room. Just then, the door opened and Taehyung entered with a tray in his hand. He looked at Wyan, who was awake now. "You are awake. Doctor told me that you have been starving yourself, and because of that you fainted. And you also have a slight fever. Why didn't you eat on time, Wyan?" he asked as he sat beside Wyan, but she kept quiet. He placed his hand on her forehead to check her temperature, while her body shuddered, feeling his touch against her. "Your fever has gone down now. Now finish your meal and take your medicines." They both had their dinner in silence. In between, Wyan was stealing glances of Taehyung, wondering what happened to him. Taehyung noticed it, but didn't say anything. Now it's time to sleep. Wyan was about to get up from the bed, but Taehyung stopped her. "Where are you going?" "In my room. From today onwards, you will stay here." This time, Wyan looked at him. "But why?" Taehyung noticed the change in her tone. "'Cause we are husband and wife." "But we were husband and wife from the start, so why now?" "'Cause initially I wanted to give you some time so that you can be free with me. As we met only 2 times before marriage, so I didn't want to make you uncomfortable," he said, trying to make Wyan understand, as from now on, he doesn't want to leave Wyan alone. Reluctantly, Wyan nodded. Now, they were laying on the bed. Taehyung looked at Wyan, who was staring at the ceiling blankly. "Wyan," he called her name, and in response, Wyan looked at him. "Wyan, I want to say that from now on, share your problems with me. I'm here for you. Besides being your professor, I'm also your husband, Wyan." "But I never felt that you are my husband. You never made me feel like that. You always treated me like your student, be it in university or in home." "Wyan, I'm sorry for that. I just wanted your good. But actually, your parents told me that you are a very stubborn girl. Don't take your studies seriously and waste your time in useless things. They wanted me to be strict with you." "Mom, Dad said this to you," she whispered while Taehyung nodded. "And as a professor, I took it seriously and wanted to make you a good student. But I won't blame your parents totally for that, cause I was also at fault for not talking to you directly. But recently, I noticed that I am damaging our relationship, and I don't want that. I don't want you to get distanced from me. But you have already created so much distance." Taehyung sighed. "I know, and now I want to erase that distance. I don't want to lose you. Let's start from being friends." He extended his hand towards her, and she hesitantly gave her hand in his. This was the start of their relation. "I'm sorry," Wyan muttered slowly after her 5th attempt to solve the question also failed. Taehyung has decided to teach her, and where is she? She solved one question 5 times and the answer was different every time. She looked at Taehyung to find any kind of frustration and disappointment, but there was none. He was calm and composed. Try again. You are doing small silly mistakes. Because of them, you are missing the whole question. Here, I'm explaining this again, but after this, you have to do it by your own. Wyan nodded silently as she decided to put her 100% focus. If he is doing this much just for her, then why can't she? After some days, Taehyung, see, I solved 3 questions right in a row. She exclaimed happily and hugged Taehyung from side, stopping his breath for a moment and then backed away. After so much of trying, she can finally solve some questions. In that time, Taehyung came to know many things about her. Her basics were very weak. She hesitates to ask doubts as if he would mock her for asking questions. Well, he understood this was because of her past and slowly she would recover from it. This is enough for a day. Let's go and take a walk outside. He closed the book and after settling them on its place, he took her hands in his and they both walked outside. All the time she was looking at him, as if trying to comprehend if he is the same cold man. Well, he is still cold, but she could see changes in him now. He is treating her warmly and she is liking it. After some days, Taehyung walked inside Wyan's house. He needed to confront her parents for what they had done to that poor soul. There, he saw Wyan's parents, Mr. Min and Mrs. Min, sitting on the couch. Upon seeing him, they both stood up and offered him to sit. What happened, son? Why you suddenly called us? Did Wyan do something? Taehyung looked at her in disbelief. He didn't even mention Wyan's name and she had already assumed that Wyan had done something. Why asking him? I'm sure that dumb Wyan must have done something. That's why he is here, right, Mr. Kim? Taehyung turned towards the source of voice and saw Jiwon descending down the stairs. He glared at her sharply. Jiwon, mind your language. You're talking about your elder sister and my wife, so think before you speak. Why? She was about to burst out but got quiet when Mr. Min glared at her. Don't look at me like that, Dad. You all know what I said is right, she said and stormed out of there. Well, I have to say that your younger daughter is so disrespectful and mannerless. They wanted to say something to Taehyung, but they knew they can't, at least not now. Leave her, she is a child. Tell me the reason about your sudden visit, son. Tomorrow, you have to pay a visit in college regarding complaints against Miss Jiwon. Mr. and Mrs. Min got tensed hearing this. What complaint? Did Jiwon do something? And who complained against Jiwoo? Tell me, who is the person who complained against Jiwon? I'll handle that person. Taehyung leaned backward on sofa, crossing his one leg on another. He watched Mr. and Mrs. Min, who is getting tensed for their so-called lovely brat child. Me, Kim Taehyung, complained against your daughter. You? But why? And what Jiwon did? And even Jiwon did something. We are family. We should help each other, right? Taehyung looked at her amused, and her audacity to say that they are family. Really? No, Mrs. Min, I do not mix my personal and professional life. And top of that, I don't support wrong which you people and your daughter did. Taehyung, will you please stop beating around the bush? What really we and our daughter did? Jiwon had bullied Wyan, and it is not from now. She is bullying her from school days, and not only in school but in home also. and you people never noticed. Oh, so Ryan has also trapped you in her fake stories. She do everything except doing useful things, Mrs. Min said, her voice filled with disdain. I have proofs of what I'm saying is true. And Mrs. Min, think before you say anything about my wife, cause I'll not hear anything against her. When Mr. Min saw that the situation is getting out of control, he signed Mrs. Min to be quiet and said, Taehyung, what happened is already happened. We can't change it. But why dragging home's matter outside? We can solve it here. Can you please withdraw your complaint? Oh, how shamelessly he is asking Taehyung to withdraw his complaint, while on the contrast, he never once asked how Ryan is, what actually Jiwon did to Ryan. We will think about it later, but for now, I want to ask you something, if it is true or not. Did you guys used to lock Ryan in a dark room and starve her whenever she gets low marks? Taehyung asked, his eyes fixed on their faces to find any kind of shame on their faces for doing this to their own child, but there was none. Taehyung stood up, as now the water was going above his head. He can't take it anymore. While Mr. and Mrs. Min also stand up. Now you will also see how your Jiwon will make you ashamed to even walk on the road with your head straight. Mr. and Mrs. Min widen their eyes as they understand the meaning behind his words. See you tomorrow in the university and then in the court. With that, Taehyung left from there while Mr. and Mrs. Min kept shouting from behind. Taehyung walked in while calling Ryan's name, but his steps halted upon seeing the scene in front of him. Ryan was sleeping, resting her head on the book. Her hairs were flying over her face, making her look eternal. There were books all around her. Seems like she slept while studying. Taehyung walked to her slowly, without making any voice. He bent down to her level and gently pressed her hairs back. She looked so beautiful. When he first saw her, it was true that he liked her. It was kinda love at first sight, but he never expected their marriage this soon. And then her parents' talk influenced him. That's why he maintained distance. He wanted her to complete her studies before they start their relationship. And there, everything messed up. I'm sorry, he said slowly, then slipped his hand under her knees and neck and picked her up in his arms and walked towards their room. She squirmed in her sleep and snuggled more into him, making him smile. He slowly placed her on the bed and covered her with a blanket. He was about to go, but then turned and bending down to her level, he placed a lingering kiss on her forehead. Sleep tight. You are working very hard nowadays, and I love you. Don't worry about anything. I'll be here for you, always. After placing the last kiss on her forehead, he left from there to prepare their dinner. This was now his routine, to talk to her when she is asleep. After 1 month, many things changed in this 1 month. Jiwon was now in jail. She was sentenced for 2 years for bullying. As not only Ryan, she bullied other students too. But Mr. and Mrs. Min always saved her. Jiwon, Mr. and Mrs. Min begged to Taehyung to not send Jiwon jail, but Taehyung was adamant on his decision. And it tarnished their reputation of what they did to their elder child. Slowly, Mr. and Mrs. Min realized their mistakes and now begging for forgiveness. But Ryan don't even want to talk to them. As for Ryan and Taehyung, their bond is getting stronger day by day. Vine has improved a lot in her studies. She just needed a guidance and a teacher with patience, which Taehyung gave her. Now Vine talked to Taehyung freely, and Vine has also deeply fallen in love with Taehyung, but doesn't have courage to confess. And for Taehyung, he was in love with her from so long. Both are waiting for the other one to make first move. Taehyung, please, let's watch this. It is good. I'm sure you'll like it too. Vine said, trying to convince him to watch the drama she chose. What's so good in Ghost? Watch a movie in which humans are present, not ghosts. He flicked her forehead and laughed while she sighed in annoyance. Don't tell me you are afraid of ghosts, she said, side-eyeing him while Taehyung gulped, like he was caught red-handed. What? Hell no. Who will be scared of the thing who doesn't even exist? He said, trying to defend himself, but Vine got it all and started laughing. Oh my god, you are afraid of ghosts? I can't believe it. OMG, OMG, latest news of the day. The scary professor of Seoul University, who scares everyone just by his one look, is scared of ghosts. Oh my god, I can't digest this. And she started laughing again, while Taehyung was looking other side, being red in embarrassment, as Vine caught his weak point. Hey, now it's enough. Stop making fun of me. No, I don't get chances like this daily. Suddenly, Taehyung held her hands and pinned her on the sofa. Now she was laying completely beneath him, while he is on top of her, pinning her both hands above her head. Her laughter died down long time ago, now replaced by nervousness, seeing Taehyung this close to her first time. What happened? Now show me your pretty teeth. Taehyung, she said nervously, while Taehyung was enjoying her straight, as he knows it makes her nervous whenever he comes too close to her. But before she could say something further, the doorbell interrupted their movement, and Taehyung stood straight, abruptly hearing the bell, and Vine also sat straight. Who is at the door on Sunday? He walked towards the door and opened the door, but after seeing the visitors, his eyes turned cold as he asked the reason for their visit. Please let us talk to our daughter. We want to ask for her forgiveness. Taehyung sighed and thought for some time before finally letting them in. Who is there, Taehyung? She asked with a smile, but her smile dropped as soon as she saw her parents. Daughter got cut by Vine as she spoke. Taehyung, what are they doing here? Vine, calm down, he said slowly, but Vine wasn't ready to listen. Vine, we are here to apologize. And for what, Mrs. Min? They became shocked as Vine addressed her mom as Mrs. Min, and her tone. She never once raised her voice over her parents, but now. I can't tell you apart from them. You can't tell either. Will we love or fall in deeper? Tell me, darling, what is it you want? How the mind doesn't work like it used to. As I know I remain a danger to me, to you. Going altered by the moment, dear. And as the days turn idle, sweet on survival. I'm on fire, waiting your arrival. I never expect to be saved without it. All you could ask for never made its way into your eyes. Taehyung walked inside the room only to see Vine curled up in a ball, sobbing loudly. Her sobs broke something in his heart. He slowly walked towards her and placed his hand on her shoulder, and she flinched. Hey, it's me. Wine looked at him for a second, then hugged him tightly and broke down into tears again. Taehyung, why they were here? Am I a bad daughter? I talked rudely to them, but they made me like this. And now they think that only sorry can fix everything. She looked up at Taehyung. No, Taehyung, it can't. No, it can't. Saying that, she again started crying, while Taehyung could only hear her complaints and was trying his best to comfort her. After some time, her cries slowed down, but she was still sobbing on his chest, while Taehyung was rubbing her back. I don't have anyone in this world. Now I'm all alone. No one loves me. She was mumbling things, and Taehyung was getting worried. What if she became like before? She will again fall in depression, but this time it will be severe. Then Taehyung heard her saying that she don't have anyone in this world. No, she have him, and he loves her very much, and maybe this time he should tell her this. I'm all alone in this big world. What are you saying, Mayan? You have me. Taehyung cupped her face between his palms and made her look at him. You have me. How can you say something like that? You have me. You are not alone. And I never said it before, but today I'm saying it, that I love you. And looked at him shocked, but then moved away from him while shaking her head. No, don't lie to me, please. You are just saying this because you want to comfort me. You'll also live like others and start hating me. Vayan, I'm not lying. I love you from long time. Aish, come here first, stop crying. He pulled her towards him and wiped her tears before tightly holding her in his arms, while she was still looking at him, trying to comprehend the meaning of his previous words. I love you from the day I saw you first time, and after our wedding, that love only increased day by day. Tell me, did I ever mistreated you? Vayan shook her head, as he never once mistreated her. He never let her do a single chore of the house. He was just cold towards her and used to scold her for her studies. You really love me? Vayan asked him again, but this time Taehyung didn't answer her verbally, but instead grabbed her neck and smashed his lips on hers. Vayan became shocked, but slowly she melted in his touch. She didn't kiss him back, she let him kiss her. After some seconds, he broke the kiss and pecked her lips last time. I really love you and I'll never leave you. Her eyes filled with tears, but this time these were of happiness. I love you too. Please don't leave me ever. Saying that, she hugged him tightly and he also embraced her in his arms. Vayan was waiting nervously for her results. Her test was good. She attempted almost every question. But now she is very nervous as it was her first test in university after Taehyung started teaching her. Kim Vayan. The teacher called her name and she immediately walked to her teacher. The teacher handed her the mark sheet and smiled at her. You did very well this time. You improved a lot. Keep it up. The teacher patted her shoulder and Vayan slowly looked at her mark sheet and there was written 70 out of 100. She jumped in happiness that all students started looking at her weirdly. She mumbled a sorry, then walked out of the class by making an excuse of washroom, but instead she went to Taehyung's office. Vayan slowly entered inside his office after getting his permission. She looked around to see if anyone was there. Yes, Vayan, why are you here? She walked towards his desk and handed him her mark sheet while smiling. Taehyung also smiled while looking at it. Look, your hard work paid off. I'm proud of you. Vayan nodded slowly, still looking around. Sir, are you alone here? Taehyung looked at her and then nodded. But not after a second, Vayan jumped on him and hugged him tightly. Taehyung, I'm so much happy. It's all because of you. From now on, I'll do more hard work to make you proud on me. Taehyung Taehyung smiled and also hugged her tightly. I know, you are a very hardworking student. I have believed in you. Wine smiled more hearing this. What more she wanted? Just a little appreciation. It's been 2 years, and their love only bloomed with this time. Wine also improved a lot. Not a topper, but she is now far better. She has this confidence that she can do anything now, and it's all because of Taehyung. He was a really good husband. He supported her in every step of her life. Now they are here in the resort to spend their vacation here. Wayan and Taehyung was sitting in the balcony of their resort, admiring the beauty of nature in front of them. Suddenly Wayan turned towards him and kissed him, and was about to run, forgetting that she is sitting on his lap, and he immediately pulled her back and pecked her lips. Hey, this is cheating. You were supposed to run behind me. Wayan, I want to ask you something. He called her, and she looked at him, sensing that he wants to talk about something serious. What happened, Taehyung? Actually, I want to ask you, what are your plans for future? What you want to do? In 1 year, you'll be graduate. So, have you thought of something? Hearing him, Wayan got quiet for some time. Taehyung held her hand and made her look at him. Look, I'm not forcing you. If you want to study further, I'm with you in this. And if you want to do something else, then I'll also support you in that. Okay, so don't take any stress. And if you didn't thought of anything, then it's okay. You have a lot of time. For now, let's just enjoy our vacation. Taehyung, actually, I have thought of it. I want to be a professor like you. Taehyung frowned, hearing her. And why is that? I want to help students like me. I will give special attention to the students who are weak and will help them. Cause I know how it feels. Taehyung smiled, hearing her. Are you sure? Wayan nodded immediately. Then I'll help you in this. Hearing him, Wayan smiled brightly and hugged him tightly. Breaking the hug, she looked at him with hurt in her eyes. Thank you for coming in my life, Taehyung. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for the every single thing you did for me. I know, thanks is not enough. But I just wanted to say, you are my life. Without you, there will be no Wayan. Tears filled in her eyes and started rolling down from her cheeks. Taehyung knew she's getting overwhelmed by the emotion. He wiped her tears and kissed both of her eyes and pulled her in his arms, and lastly kissed her head. My silly emotional wife.